Hello again, folks. In one of Zombie Cleo's recent videos from the Hermitcraft server, she was building the entrance to her base and talked about putting an eyeball in the window at the top of the arch there. So I sent her a message asking if she'd like a video of how to do the moving eyeball with the pattern vertical rather than horizontal like the video I did before. Okay, so here we go. Here's the eyeball. I will say at the start of this that there's a bit of a problem with this, that if you move too far away, you can see the blocks start becoming transparent when they're moving. Now it doesn't show up so much when you've got something behind it other than the sky. In fact, if I come over to the horizontal one that I did before and turn that on, if I go up high enough above it, you can see exactly the same problem with this one. If it ever decides to move, there is the same problem with that. You'll see the redstone showing through every now and then, but because it's dark behind there, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So I don't know how it's going to look when Cleo finishes putting the arch together. Right, let's turn this one off and go and have a quick look at the redstone in the new one. It looks an awful lot more complicated, but most of this is just connecting everything together. Let's turn that off for the moment. I've actually reduced the size of the clock in the middle here, and as I say, most of the rest of the redstone is just to get everything connected up. I've tried to compress it down so that it doesn't take up too much space in Cleo's base. So anyway, let's have a quick look at how we put this together. Okay, so the first thing we need is the pistons around the edge that will be moving the image. The window has a diameter of 9 blocks, so the image is going to need to be 10 by 10, and the gap between the pistons will be 11 by 11. So we need 11 pistons either side, one block away from the edge of the window. This only just fits in behind the arch that Cleo's built, but I'm assuming she's going to put something else around the edge rather than leaving all the edges of these blocks showing, so it should all be hidden. Right, let's put the image in. I've just knocked this together out of normal and red sandstone with black wool for the pupil. I'm sure Cleo can come up with something better than that. I was originally looking at having sandstone steps at the top and bottom to make the pupil more rounded, and having the pupil transparent with glowstone behind, but it didn't look that much better, and it made that much more space needed at the back of the window. Right, let's put in the first part of the redstone. Right, so this is the redstone needed to power the pistons. I've used coloured wool here just to make the different circuits a bit more easily discernible. The ones along the top and bottom are very simple, just a row of blocks with a line of redstone over the top. Down the sides it's a bit more complicated, but not too bad. When this torch comes on, it powers this piston, also this block and the redstone on top of it, which cover these two pistons, and then this redstone and the block under it, which covers those two directly, and this one is also bud powered, so that covers 6 of the pistons. We've then got the same layout above here which covers the other 5 at the top. Now, because those torches would be on by default and hence have all the pistons powered, I then need to invert it again, so I've got lines coming down from that block and up from this block, and I've got another redstone torch here which powers this block and the redstone underneath. So that keeps them all off except when this block gets powered. You can see there all the pistons are triggered. And then I've got exactly the same on the other side, but obviously a mirror image. Okay, next we have the clock that's going to drive the pistons. I've compressed it down rather from the previous version. It's now just 4 droppers with redstone repeaters between them on 4 ticks, and then redstone out either side here and 1 repeater that goes across between. If I turn it on, you can see that we now have a pulse going round those 4 droppers. The circuit on the side here is the thing to start and stop it. This here is the block that needs to be powered to turn the whole thing on. It's going to send a signal across to this piston which pushes this block up into the circuit, and also after a slight delay send a signal into this pulse limiter which is going to send a pulse into the ring. Because this has only got 1 repeater between each of the droppers, unlike that which had 2 on 4 ticks, I've actually included more stackable items in the droppers so that it's less likely on each circuit for the pistons to fire. So when you come to build this, you need to start by putting down this 3x5 area here in the center of the window horizontally and lined up vertically with the level that this torch is on. So it's a little below center vertically. That's just to make it easier to connect it all up. Speaking of which, let's connect it all together. Okay, the connections for the left and right hand pistons are actually very simple. They're connected to the outputs from these 2 comparators, and it's just a redstone line going round into this block at the side which has got the torch on it. The connections to the top and bottom are going to be a bit more complicated because, well, mainly because I've just got to actually bring the signal up and down. Right, there are the other connections. On each side I've got 2 blocks next to the comparator with redstone on top going into a 3rd block, and then on the right hand side that goes up through this torch tower and stair steps up to connect into here, whilst on the left it goes through this torch, powers this redstone, which powers that block, which powers that redstone torch, which powers that redstone, which steps all the way down there. The reason I've done this with torch towers going up and down is basically so that I have the same timing on the top and bottom rows of pistons as I do on the right and left, because obviously I've got the 2 torches, each gives a tick of delay. I've actually found an improvement on the right hand side to my original build over there. So, and that's it basically. Powering that, come round the front, and we have our moving eyeball. Right, one last thing to say. As with the old one over there, you don't want to have this running continuously, because if some of the chunks get unloaded, you'll have some pistons firing and not others, and it'll mess the pattern up. And in 1.9 it may even jam up altogether. So you'll probably want this switch somewhere more convenient than up the top here. If you're going to use one of these slab ladders to bring the power up from a piston below, bear in mind that this circuit here does require a certain level of power to set it off. So the best thing to do is to stick a torch tower here at the top, just to make sure it gets fully powered in that block, and then you can have your switch down the bottom here wherever's convenient. And there we go. I hope this is sufficiently clear for you, Cleo, and for anybody else that fancies watching. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.